Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Great Expectations. Chapter 4, Miss Havisham's Invitation. Joe could not read at all, but then reading was not required of a blacksmith. I, however, could read a little, and since I was to be apprenticed to Joe when I was old enough, it was plain that I already educated above my station in life. I wanted nothing more to be a blacksmith and work with Joe, whom I loved and who loved me and protected me against my sister's temper as much as he was able. Frequently, his interference in my punishment earned us both a fierce rapping on the head by my sister's hand. She scolded us equally, too. It was shortly after Christmas that a great change came into my life. Uncle Pumblechook arrived one day with an invitation from Miss Havisham, an immensely rich and grim old lady who lived in a big neglected house. I had never seen the lady, only had heard about her. She lived a life of seclusion, and the house was barricaded for fear of robbers. Now this strange woman wanted me to come and play at her house. Joe was astonished. How could she have come to know Pip? He asked Mrs. Joe. Noodle, cried my sister. Who said she knew him? She gestured with a smile at Uncle Pumblechook. Your uncle is her tenant, and one day he was paying his rent. He was asked if he knew any boy who would come and play. Out of the goodness of his heart, he mentioned this one here. Now get out of my way so I can clean this up. With that, she seized me and soaped and scrubbed and rinsed and toweled me until I shone. Then she brought out fresh underwear and my best suit. As I was undergoing this torture, my sister and Uncle Pumblechook dreamed aloud. She had said, only if I were a boy and befriended by a rich woman, it could be the making of him, Uncle, the making of us all. Uncle Pumblechook nodded greatly. No doubt about it, no doubt about it. A fortune may have its eyes on him right now. In no time at all, I was bundled into Uncle's carriage on my way to play. I dare not ask why or what I should play at, and before I could ask anything at all, we drove up to a locked gate surrounding an old dismal brick house with many walled up and barred windows. Uncle rang the gate bell. A window was raised, and and a clear voice called out, What name? Pumblechook delivering a boy, Pip. The window was closed. In a few moments, a beautiful girl came across the courtyard to the gates with keys in her hand. She was about my age, but she seemed a little older because of the proud and haughty way she held her head above her head and shoulders. She scarcely looked at me, but said, Come in, Pip, and started to close the gate. When Uncle tried to follow me, she stopped with him with a sharp, Did you wish to see Miss Havisham? Uncle Pumblechook looked uncomfortable. Well, if Miss Havisham wishes to see me, he said. Ah, said the girl, but she doesn't. And she slammed the gate shut. Leaving Uncle, his dignity severely ruffled, we crossed the courtyard and went into the house through a side door, the front one being chained shut. It was dark outside, but the girl had left a candle burning on the table by the side door. She led me down several passages and up a staircase, saying scornfully several times, Don't loiter so, boy, or you'll get lost. We finally stopped before a closed door, and she said, Go in. More out of shyness than politeness, I answered, After you, miss. Don't be ridiculous, boy. I'm not going in. And she walked away, taking the candle with her and leaving me alone in the dark hall. Uncomfortable and half afraid, I knocked on the door. A cracked voice told me to enter, which I did, and I found myself in a large room, lit with candles. It seemed to be the ladies' dressing room, where there was a large gilded mirror sitting on top of a draped table. Dresses were scattered by the half-past trunks. In the midst of all this sat the strangest lady I'd ever seen. She was dressed all in white, silk, satin, and lace, a bridal gown. A long white bridal veil streamed from her hair, which was white too. Only one of her shoes was on her feet. The other lay on a table nearby. White gloves, a white lace handkerchief, and a white prayer book sat scattered at her dressing table. Although I could say these things were white, the truth is they had been white once, but now yellow with age. And age had changed the figure in the wedding dress for the dress had obviously been made for a young woman and now hung loose on the woman who had shrunk to skin and bones. This, then, was Miss Havisham. "Who are you?" she said. "Pip, ma'am, Mr. Pumblechook's nephew, come to play." "Come closer," commanded Miss Havisham. "You are not afraid of a woman who has never seen the sun since you were born, are you?" I shook my head. No, though this was untrue. She put her hand on her chest on her left side. "Do you know what lies under here?" Your heart, ma'am," I managed to say. "Broken," she pronounced the word with a weird smile and somewhat boastfully. Then she motioned me to look at her watch on the dressing table and at a clock on the wall. Both said 20 minutes to 9 and had stopped. She nodded meaningfully at me. "I am tired, and I want to be amused. I have a sick fancy to see someone play," she said. "Play!" I could do nothing but stand there, for I didn't know what to do, how to play. She turned to look at herself in the mirror, and after a while said impatiently, "Call Estella. You can at least do that if you can't play, can you? I say call Estella." I went into the dark corridor and called, and soon Estella's candle came towards me. Miss Havisham beckoned the girl to come to her. Then she picked up a jewel from the dressing table and held it against Estella's brown hair. "It will be yours one day, my dear," she said with a strange laugh. "It will be yours to help trap the admiration of men and break their hearts. I'll play cards with this boy as I watch." Estella was indignant. "Play with this boy? He's only a common laboring boy." I heard Miss Havisham whispered, "Even so, you can't break his heart, can't you?" Estella obeyed, and we sat down to a game of Beggar My Neighbor, but I could not concentrate on the cards. Estella kept up a stream of remarks to Miss Havisham. "What coarse hands he has, and what thick boots." She laughed with disdain. "See how he calls knaves by the wrong name? He calls them jacks." I was so upset that I misdealt that I was called clumsy. Of course, Estella won the game. Miss Havisham had sat like a corpse as we played, but finally she leaned forward and said to me, "Estella had said many hard things about you, but you say nothing about her. What do you think of her? Tell me." At her insistence, I whispered in her ear, "Estella is very proud and very pretty, and very insulting. May I please go home now?" Miss Havisham did not let me leave until the next game was over, but then I was dismissed and told to return in 6 days' time. Estella was ordered to give me something to eat, which she did, some bread and meat. I felt as if I were a dog being fed. All the hurt and humiliations made my tears fall. When Estella saw my reddened eyes, a smile of delight came to her face, and she gave me her head a toss of contempt. My sister was nicer to me that night, for she felt I'd come up with a little in the world. But I was miserable. I had not known before how common a person I was until Estella had pointed it out. I saw how thick my boots were. I saw how coarse my hands were, and how ignorant I was, for I called knaves jacks. I knew how common I was, and I felt ashamed of it because of the beautiful Estella. That day, that meeting with Estella changed my life completely. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.